Hey there, Heather Boyd Wire here.
Today I'm going to show you how to make these super cool chaos beads that you can use for necklaces, earrings, and pendants. So there's been a lot of buzz about these chaos beads in my Facebook group, the Wire Art and Jewelry Makers Club. So I decided to try my hand at it. And I'm going to use this softer wire. It's quite soft actually. It's aluminum wire, and it's I ordered 20 gauge, but it seems more like a 22 gauge, and I got a huge quantity. So I'm really grateful to find something that I can do with this wire. You'll also need a base wire to wrap these little wires around. So I'm using, it's also aluminum 1.2 millimeters, but you could also use like an 18 gauge wire or something like that. So I cut 2 feet of this wire and 3 strands, and what you want to do is hold all 3 strands together and then take your other wire that you're going to wind it around, and just start by doing it the length that you want the bead to be. So just take it on here and try to get it like tight enough together, and then just decide how long you want your bead to be. If it's a focal bead, you'll want it quite a lot longer. You could also do lots of little beads too to bead on a necklace wire, which would be cool too. This can also of course be a earring, could be a pendant. There's so much that you can do with this. So you're going to just do your kind of base wire here, and then you could squeeze it together if you need it a little tighter. And then you're going to clip your ends off here. And if you want to just push them in a little bit, you can, but keep it loose, right? Because you want to be able to pull it off the wire. So if it gets too tight, just like untwist it a little bit so it's not too tight. Now this is where the fun begins. You're just going to free flow with it. There's no real rhyme or reason. I actually didn't even look at a tutorial for this, but I'm just imagining this is how it's done. And you just take these and just wind it around. So you really, really want a soft wire. This is aluminum wire is super for that, like, because it's very soft. A copper wire would be good. You can use the artistic copper wire, probably 22 gauge, maybe 20 gauge if you want to make a larger piece, but then it's going to get harder to work with. And I'm just really free flowing, so I'm just going around. I'm trying to keep the wires like one beside the other. That part gets a little bit tricky. You can kind of flow with the same direction of your swirls. You can alternate the directions of your swirls, and basically I'm just working my way around the beads, because you want it to go all the way around. You just don't want it at one side. So I'm just going to keep going around and around, and I'm going to cover that little bit here, a little bit at the bottom that's got the loose wires. And then if I want to change my direction, you're using your thumb to kind of push it around, just to keep them as flat as possible. Doesn't really matter if the underneath ones aren't as perfect, because they're going to be hidden. And the idea is you just want to build it up with as much detail as you can. And I'm kind of going back and forth with my pattern a little bit, and you'll see when we finish it off, it's going to become more solid. And the idea is you want to like finish at one end after, but you're going to get an idea where you want to end it depending on how it's starting to look, right? So we're just playing around with it. It will hold its shape after, just the nature of the wire. It will hold in shape. And if you want it thicker in the middle, you could do it thicker in the middle. You could definitely, just play around with it. And then if you found that you cut too much wire, you can definitely clip it off. If you need to, if you've got too much wire on there, you can clip it off as well. And so and then you can push these down if you don't like, how the shape is. You can definitely play around with it and see what you want to do. And let's see how it's looking. It's not too bad. Very abstract. I don't know if there is sort of a right or wrong way to do this. I'm just winging it, so we'll just see how it goes. So we're going to go around here, and that looks pretty good. You could definitely build it up more if you want. You can make some of the loops a little smaller If you want some of the loops to be a little bit smaller, it's always more interesting design-wise if you alternate the size of things. So that's definitely a good idea to alternate the size of your loops. And then once you have enough, just take it to the end and wind it around, and then you're going to cut it so that sits flush in there. So we'll cut that here and here. And then what you want to do is push these ends in so they're flush against there. And then at this point, if you need to do any adjusting, you can kind of push them back and forth. You can squeeze them around. Just this is the part where you kind of do your finishing touches of how you want it to look. And then you'll see when you're done, what you'll be able to do is actually remove it from the wire. And there you have your bead that you can stick wire through there to go on a necklace. You could add beads to the end, and that's your little focal bead. Now the other hack I thought you could do for this is just put 3 spools of wire on either a dowel or a bamboo skewer, and that way you don't have to pre-cut your wire and you can just go from there. So I would take these, I'll just prop them up away from the camera. So I just set it up on the base of a chair like this. I just hung it with some wires on the bamboo skewer, and we have our 3 spools there. So now that the spools are set up, we're just going to pull the wire a little bit so we have enough to wind around our initial wire, and we're just going to hold it and just wind this one around depending on how long you want the bead to be. So you'll get to know as you make some how much wire you're going to need, and it'll totally depend on the gauge of your wire, and even within wire gauges, sometimes some wire is thicker than the other. So if you find it like that was overlapping a little bit, you can just adjust it, and you want to just keep them sort of side by side on there. So just go however long you want your bead to be, and then like we did before, sort of untwist it a little bit so it's not too tight on there when you go to remove the bead from the wire. And we're just going to clip those ends here, and then you could just bring them in together a little bit more so they're right beside each other. And that's going to get covered up anyway, so don't worry if it's a little bit pokey. And so now what you want to do is we're just going to hold this, and we can kind of wind it around, do our shape what we want. We can make some larger loops, and then we can change direction. You know, if we want to change direction of the wires, we can definitely do that. Change the direction, make some big, some small, and then maybe when you're more in the middle of the piece, the spirals can be smaller, and then as you get towards the outside, you can make them bigger. And then so this way I don't have to pre-cut the wire. I'm just pulling them as I need more wire, and rather than kind of looping the wire around the piece, I'm just moving this piece around depending on what direction I want to go. So this is a slightly different way to do it. This is a good way to do it if you don't know how much wire you're going to need. And if you already have calculated how much wire you need, you can pre-cut the wire for sure. It's just, this is one way to do it so you don't waste wire. And it's kind of funky as well. I like the 3 colors. I think it's really fun. This is pretty stiff, you know, so this is the 22 gauge wire. I think 20 is going to be like really hard on your hands. So if anything, I would stick with the 22. It just seems like a nice kind of weight. It's pretty flexible. It's the artistic copper wire, and sometimes your wires are going to get a little bit overlapped. That's probably just going to be with practice that you're going to be able to keep them one beside the other. It's really, it is a little tricky for sure, but considering this is like, I think the third bead that I've made. It's not too bad. So I'm learning with you guys. This is the fun thing about our group, about the Wire Art and Jewelry Makers Club, is we're always inspiring each other, finding out new techniques, experimenting with different things, and I'm always open to new ideas, so I find this super fun. This is a little bit loose, maybe compared to some of the ones I've seen before, but that also is just a question of practice, and you could tighten them up as you go. So I'm trying to do some loops big, some loops small. I haven't really decided at what point I'm going to stop, but I'm just going to play around with this. I really like the 3 colors. I think it's super, super pretty, really fun. It's a blue, a purple, and a red. And these are they're all 3 the artistic copper wires. So it's cool. Really, really cool. So there we go. So we're going to go around here. And then once you're happy with the swirls, however many you want, same as we did before, you're going to end it at one end. So I'm just going to go like this, pull it around, and then clip it. Clip it here. That works really well putting them on the bamboo skewer. I just find it's, it's a lot easier that you don't have to pre-cut your wire type of thing. So there's the bead, and then at that point, if you want to like squeeze it in a little bit, you can definitely do that. You can push it in. I could have made it more dense, more full, but I think for, just a little experiment, it's pretty cool, and I like the way the colors work together, and then you can just pull it off, and there you have your bead. So thanks so much for watching the video. Give it a big thumbs up if you liked it. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for lots more DIY wire art and jewelry making videos. Hit the notification bell to be notified when I go live and when I post new videos. And if you'd like to share pictures of your wire work, be sure to join the Wire Art and Jewelry Makers Club on Facebook, where we share inspiration, tutorials, and all kinds of resources for wire jewelry making. If you'd like to check out my work on Etsy, my husband and I specialize in wedding cake toppers and custom wire jewelry. And also, if you'd like to be on my mailing list, I have a little mini ebook, Wire Art Essentials, that I'll send you, and I'll link that up below as well. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you the next time.